Okay, welcome to our first mini-sode.
Yeah, this is our first mini-sode because we have our big podcast that we release every other week, but on our off weeks, we're going to release our mini-sodes. They'll probably be like 10 to 20 minutes, very digestible and easy. Ironically, a lot of mini-sodes are like, let's just talk about this a little bit, but I feel like our mini-sodes are going to be deep dives on something very specific rather
Very
than
niche and focused. Yeah,
and our big episodes are more on like, here's a big topic and let's cover as much as we can about it, right?
we cast a wide net.
Yes. So I think these will be cool because things that we can't talk about in our major episodes, we can really dive into because we have the time and the space to do it. So, wahoo.
It's going to be fun, too. And when we were talking about different ideas and Bryn threw this one out, they're like, hey, what if we do mini-sodes? It was this fun moment of, there are some podcasts I adore that have mini-sodes. Yeah. That'd be so cool. We can do a mini-sode?
What an honor.
So today's going to be fun.
Yeah, and I just have lots of like, because our seasons have themes, so we can go out of theme in mini-sodes, but our major episodes will still be within the theme. So it gives us some freedom to address other things and more timely things and all of that. So we have this quote.
Shall we read it for them?
Yes. You've probably heard this before. I think it's like pretty common. And we don't like this quote. Going into it. Do you want to read it?
Yeah. Quote, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be better than you were yesterday. End quote. It's interesting because this, again, was a quote that I loved growing up. And I still, to a point, agree with some pieces of it. However, there is a lot of problematic thinking in it of, okay, well, what if today is an off day? What if yesterday was the best day of my life and I'm just going downhill from there?
I think this one's kind of funny because a lot of people use this quote to fight perfectionism. Like, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be better than you were yesterday. But that is inherently a perfectionistic attitude, like in disguise. Because that's saying like every day has to be better than the last. And so if you have a great day, you know, we all have days that's like things went really well, like everything just came together. I like made all my jokes at the right time and everything. And then you just have this expectation that today was so good, so yesterday has to be better than this, right? Like if you're truly living by this quote, then that's what it turns into. We all have bad days and we all have really good days. And so it's unrealistic to be like, well, every day has to be better than the last day.
It's interesting because I've heard several different people say this in different authority figures, also just normal interactions with others. And yeah, I do agree with you, Brent, that there's a lot of perfectionistic thinking in this quote, even though oftentimes it is said in the hopes of alleviating perfectionism. It's kind of ironic in a way.
It is ironic.
Yeah. And I've used it myself. Like it's very, very surreal when we first started looking at all the happiness quotes and whatnot. And you brought this quote up and I thought, oh, I've definitely said that before to others. I've said it to myself. And I think it's important to give ourselves permission to have the hard days.
Yeah.
Even mediocre days. Like it's okay just to show up.
Yeah. Because we do want to get better and improve throughout our lives.
For sure. Yeah, that's a good goal.
But I think like having it be every day is unrealistic. It's about continually moving forward even though you have bad days and not expecting perfection ever. You're not going to get to the point in your life when things are perfect, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to arrive. It's about continually moving forward and giving yourself that grace.
I love what you just said there. Moving forward and giving yourself grace. And I think that's one of my major takeaways for this whole season of talking about happiness and values and engaged living and whatnot. And also, give ourselves grace because we're figuring it out. We're on our H journey. And another thing that does bring me comfort is that life happens, and not all the time will it be the most enjoyable, and my worth and my ability to create a life that I love and I feel peace with is not dependent on things going perfectly in my life. And for me, I have this really big value of growing, and I recognize that a lot of times in nature, plants will die, or maybe they'll be struggling to survive in cold temperatures, or some type of environment that might not be as supportive for them. And at the end of the day, there's always a spring. Things come back alive. And sometimes taking a step back and looking at my life through this lens of, oh, I'm going to go through seasons. And maybe that could be several times in a month. Like I could have 3 winters and 1 fall and maybe 2 summer. Like, who knows? Just the point that I'm trying to make is live your life with grace, practicing a big heart towards yourself. Be kind. Give yourself grace. And it's okay, because life is not linear. Your growth isn't going to be linear either. And sometimes we really don't know what we need and how we need to grow until we experience that. And it's okay if things don't always go perfectly as planned or as you'd hope for.
Yeah. One thing I've thought a lot about lately is a lot of the time I'm very goal oriented, so I will set a lot of goals, and then a lot of the time it's like, okay, I've started being consistent at these goals. Now I need like set new ones to like get better. So, I mean, it could turn into like every month I'm setting like new goals, but that's really hard to like keep those habits. And I think let yourself sit in the good habits you've created.
Ooh, that was good.
Let yourself be like, okay, I've started doing these good habits. In order to solidify them and get all the benefits from them, let me do these for a few months. And a lot of the time I have spurts where I'm really like, oh, I love setting goals. I'm excited to move forward. And other times that I'm like, I just want to live my life and not focus on getting better. I don't think you always have to be focusing on getting better when you can just sit in the good habits you have right now and work on those, and not everything has to be perfect. And not all of your habits have to be perfect, but do let yourself enjoy and continue to do the good habits you have.
Almost like giving yourself permission to sit with who you are and where you are. And that can be really uncomfortable. There is something to, you've come as far as you have. And both Brent and I, we've talked about this, that it's interesting how where we thought we would be when we were younger and where we are now. And in some ways, it's like, that was not at all what I expected or hoped for.
Right.
And I think for me, I value being able to be okay with that.
Yeah, because at least for me, I look back at myself in high school, and I just I had a great high school experience, and I had a lot of big dreams. People expected a lot from me. And if I looked at where I am now, I think I would be pretty disappointed. And I often look at my life and I was like, wow, I peaked in high school. I was one of those people. But I think I will continue to get better. I've just been given a hard lot with mental illness and all of that. But my past self doesn't understand the middle. Like, if my past self just saw where I am at this exact point, I would be so disappointed. But it's missing out the whole middle, where it's like, what have I learned? Who have I become? What things have I grown in? And what weaknesses did I not realize I had in high school that I've been able to improve a lot now? And I think I'm much better set up to live a great life than if I had lived the dream life that I thought I would in high school, you know?
Yeah, and I also would add to that you have a lot of depth, Bryn, and I think that when we go through hard stuff in life, we can, I don't know, maybe what I'm about to say is problematic, but for me, I often think about, yes, no matter what happens, I have the choice to either become better or I can become bitter. And a lot of times when we go through challenging stuff, it does refine our character, and it creates this depth that wouldn't be there otherwise.
Yeah.
And you have that depth.
Thank
and
you.
I think a lot of people listening to this as well often forget to extend that to themselves. You've been through hard stuff. Most likely it's given you increased self-awareness or awareness of other people, their pain, the way the world works. There's more awareness, and also there's more depth, which that lends itself to, okay, maybe you're able to appreciate things on a deeper level, or think more critically, or there are some very beautiful things that are part of your life or your character now than maybe when we were younger we didn't have as much.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think I became better because I was bitter. Because there, like you said, a lot of people are like, oh, you can either become better or bitter. I think bitterness is important. After I had mental illness and depression, like, really bad, and kind of like the scales of childhood fell off my eyes, I was really bitter and cynical and critical, and probably not always very pleasant to be around. But even while I was in that time, I recognized it was an important step in my process of becoming better. Because I could have just said, well, I'm not going to become bitter, I'm just going to become better, and then ignored that pain and ignored the complexities of life. And what that would have turned into is I wouldn't have learned anything from my experiences. But because I was bitter and I let myself sit in that pain and be cynical for some time, it allowed me to see even better the complexities of the world and how people can have hard times and different experiences and I'm at the point where I am becoming better because of that, but I needed to be bitter. I think we need to recognize that as part of a healing process.
That sounds a lot like flexibility and even strength in a way of like, I can do this, and I'm going to let myself feel the bitterness and the...
Right. Yeah, we can do
That's
both.
Really well said, yeah.
Thank you. Another point I want to hit on with this is life isn't linear and success is not linear. So often we imagine that, like, success is going to be, like, in a straight line going upwards.
Oh, I wish. Do I?
But success is more of, like, a roller coaster, as ups and downs. But it's a roller coaster that ends higher than it starts. If there was a video, this would be easier to visualize. But
they let you get off. Imagine this: you're on a roller coaster, and then at the very, very top, they let you get off at this beautiful mountain view.
Yes, exactly. Wow. So I think that life goes up and down, but hopefully it trends upward. But you're going to have downs. Sometimes you may go way down before you go way up, and that's okay. Like, we shouldn't expect... I think a lot of the time when we're setting goals or trying to improve, we expect to, like, get a little bit better every day, right? But really, I think it may be you struggle with this for a week, and then you're like, oh, it clicks now. Or you struggle it for a month or years. There's lots of things that I have struggled with for years, and then, like, at some point, it just... Because I continually put an effort towards them, suddenly it just clicked, and I was like, this... habit I've been trying to form for years finally just clicked. Like, it just, like, I can do it now, and a lot of the time I realized that I needed that time in order to make it work anyway. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be just, it's not stairs that you're just going up perfectly, right?
Well, there's something really important here that I'd love to emphasize. Failure is not bad. It's good to get excited about success and growing and figuring things out and moving forward. And it's really vital for our development and sometimes our healing to be able to slow down and be okay with making mistakes. You're human.
Yeah.
I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes. And to our lovely brunchies, you're going to make mistakes. What are you going to do about those mistakes? That's a really important distinction and question to be asking ourselves of, okay, what do we want to do with the failure? Or maybe when we haven't gotten to that place of, oh, yes, I figured it out. What are we going to do in the waiting process? For me, I think the waiting can be the most frustrating. However, when I'm slowing down, I'm being mindful, and I'm telling myself, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
It can make the end a lot more satisfying as well as rewarding. And I think it's adopting a growth mindset as well.
Yeah, it's saying, I have these failures. What do I learn from that? How can I grow from that? I loved what you talked about. We talked about this before with college, how you're like, I just want to get done. I've always had this goal. But you realized, like, college just takes time. This is going to take me 4 years.
Oh, boy. Yeah. I think at one point I had a goal to graduate in 3 years. And then it was, you know what? I don't have to run faster than I have strength. And things take time.
Yeah.
And my growth takes time. And also when I start to rush around, I miss out on certain things. And we've been using many metaphors. And I think perhaps a good place to wrap up would be, there's also, so going back to the roller coaster metaphor and being dropped off at this lovely mountain pass view. And you're watching the sunset and it's gorgeous. And there are wildflowers growing all around you. Maybe there are a few mountain goats. Who knows?
Who knows?
Also, while you were on the roller coaster, you were going through these beautiful meadows with rivers running through it, maybe fresh fruit. This is my little imaginary world, so I can put that in there if I want. There's still beauty all around you. It doesn't necessarily have to be the peak. In life, we will be going through valleys. And then sometimes we'll be at the top of a peak, looking backwards and seeing everything before us and behind us. It's important to be able to recognize that life and success isn't linear. Your growth isn't linear.
Yeah.
And it's okay to slow down. It's okay to give yourself grace and self-compassion. It's important, actually. And ask yourself, what am I going to do when I make mistakes? Or when things don't work out the way that I want them to? Or maybe my younger self thought things would be different. Even still, you've grown. You've learned a lot of things. And maybe what you experienced wasn't what you wanted. Maybe it was what you needed. And my younger self definitely couldn't have predicted that. Or like even with type 1 diabetes, I had no idea. At 15 and a few short years later, I'd be getting diagnosed with a chronic health condition that can't be cured. And like, I can't do anything about it. I never would have known that. And I didn't ask for it. And in life, things happen. Bodies get sick. And it's just part of who I am now. And I can choose to be able to slow down as I'm going through the valleys and also be really grateful for when I reach the peak.
I love that. And I think that the valleys don't always, while we're going through them, they don't always look very, like we may not see the beauty in them. Like lots of the hard parts of my life were really hard, but I still would call them beautiful to an extent because of all the things I've learned from them. They were terrible at the time, but the beauty they've given me now is incredible.
I love that.
I think that's all. I think we dug that quote out. So
there we go. Let us know what you think. We love hearing from all of you. And for me, my takeaway is just give myself grace, and it's okay to make mistakes.
Right.
Life is beautiful and things take time.
Yeah. I love that. That's so good. Okay. Yeah, we'll see you next week with our next big episode.
Oh yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.